So I am going to assume that we're live to YouTube. I don't have a third screen where I can check it because my equipment's not all set up right now. But what I want to talk about today, and actually what I wanted to talk about last week, which was the 5th week of the month, where I normally invite the color planning people, the virtual die class people, to kind of sit in, and that lesson is supposed to be color. And I wanted to get moving on this, but I need to have you guys sort of kick the tires and let me know what you think. Okay, so the premise is, okay, this is how I store my die recipes. Let me do one more thing. I am going to, nope, I'm not doing it there. I need to get rid of the clock at the top. I did that for myself so I could keep track, because that's something in post-edit I really can't take off.
It's not on our screen, Cindy.
You're not seeing it?
No. I'm not seeing a clock at all.
So now it's, well, it was a digital thingy.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's see, Cindy.
And let me put you guys on Zoom in focus mode. Why isn't it letting me do that? There's been a lot of changes. There's a lot of things with Zoom that I can show you, or one cool thing that happened with Zoom that I can show you, but I think they got rid of my focus mode. So I will spotlight it. There we go. So one of the things that concerned me, and I had a few conversations over the last several months with people, one person who misplaced their die recipe books. This one's my red and this one's half of my greens. And the second person that I talked to, they were involved in a fire and they lost all of their die recipes that they've been curating for God knows how long. So one safe place, one thing you could do, you could just go through here and take a photograph of every page, put it in a special album, and then remember to do that, and you would have them. You can't sort, you can't filter, there's a lot of things you cannot do. So I thought, we've got the Notion Art catalog. What about another Notion template that I can add to the membership, and I'll add it to the virtual die class, where you can get into it and then fill it with your information. One thing I want to do first is I am going to pre-fill it with all of the recipes from my die book, which last year got back in print, so I had plenty of these, dying by the numbers. I'll pre-fill it with that so that you have it, okay? So what I have now is one that I'm just testing, but I also know from doing this for other people for non-rug cooking reasons, or when I did the Notion Art catalog, you guys had some really good ideas that maybe I didn't think of. So before I release it to the masses, let me show you what I've got, and you tell me what you think, if this is going to be something that's going to work for you or not. So let's take a look. Let me share my screen. So here is the Notion database. You would get it. It would have all 64 formulas from the die book entered into this. And so what I'm going to do first is just show you how I would enter one. It's actually quite simple. You simply click New Page. And once you do that, let me get this window out of the way so I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to type in this one for bittersweet, which is 4B. Bittersweet. And you can enter all of your die books into this database down below so that they show up here. So if you have the Jewel Tones die book, if you have Primary Fusion die book, you have books or maybe formulas from old rug hooking magazines, and from Marianne Lincoln, you can put those in there. This would be where you would collect all that stuff together, right? So once I get that in there, I can open it. Again, this is just like the Notion Art Catalog. It's a little bit different in that Notion has changed a little bit. So it might be a little unfamiliar, so please ask questions if it doesn't make sense. That's what I typed in. You've got this View Details button where you can click it and it'll bring up these properties that are hidden. Normally these would have been all under here and you would have to scroll way down to get to the good stuff. So now we can put that in the side. This color, I'm going to call this color orange because I know this is an orange. And I've got it set up with a notation that says how much that formula is intended for, right? Because one way to lighten a dye recipe color is to double the amount of wool you dye over, right? Or reduce the amount of dye or wool that you dye over to make your color darker. So we've got to have a starting point. What is it? Most dye books, not all, but most dye books are half a yard. So this will come up as half a yard for everything. But you can always highlight it, type in whatever it actually is for this particular recipe. And then it's just a matter of, if you're using the primary 5, it's just a matter of plugging in what's going on. So it's 1/4, and then yellow it's 1/2 plus 1/4, and then it's 1/128, and then 1/64. So it's as simple as that. There's your recipe. What I would do is when I get this out of the dye pot, I would make up my page that's going to go into my physical thing, because there's nothing that can match the ability to look at the colors on the edge of your dye book and to find the perfect color that you want. But then what you're going to want to do as an extra step for your backup here is to take a photograph of it. And you're going to add that image right there. You're going to just click Upload File. You're going to go to wherever. Oh, this does happen to be the right one. And then you're going to bring in that color. And if you don't have anything else that you want to enter, you're basically done. That's how fast and how easy this is, right? One thing, and the reason I wanted to add the picture of the wool is that I have a gallery set up. Now, in this gallery now, you can, and this orange looks almost like the pinks I chose. These are random pinks. These are not the colors from the dye formula, okay? I just Googled pink and picked a pink and chopped a little picture out of it and popped it in. So ignore these colors for now. When you get the template, you will have photographs of the right color. Okay, so that'll make that a little bit easier. But once we have things like that, we can now set up some filters. I envision probably having a filter for basically every color. So down here, let's go to View Details. We had the opportunity to put in orange, but I could do a filter for red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, and neutral. Neutral to me is anything that is gray or beige or grayish, anything that fits in that non-color kind of a category. I would put flesh in neutral because it's probably not pink. It might be slightly pink, but then that is what is there. If you wanted a special one, maybe you are one of those rug hookers and all you do is hook faces and people, you could set up a new category and call it flesh if you wanted to. I wanted to keep it as simple as possible, so I basically have the rainbow plus neutral. if that makes sense. Okay. Oh, and I just now realized that my picture was cutting off some of that. So hopefully, what would you have missed? You would have missed.
Well, we are missing the bee in bittersweet.
Right, right. So hopefully you could see me adding in the fractions.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
We can see all that. We're just missing the bee in bittersweet.
I didn't realize that it popped up bigger than the original, than what this is.
And it's okay because then we can see it better.
Right. Okay, so I'll have the two views. I'll have a gallery view. I'll have the table view as always. And this is always the easiest way to get started. I do have a template set up. So in here under the default for new page, I've got this table that you can't see. Let me get, I need the other app to get rid of that. Let me just squish me out of the way. So it'll set up this table, which is not a database. This is just a table to make it look pretty. You could change this if you're using Cushing. I got to try to remember some Cushing names. I'm going to make some up. Maybe this is golden yellow. I don't even know if that's a color. But you can get rid of this. And if you have like 4 or 5 colors that you use all the time, you could set up a new template to take care of that. But that's probably for another lesson. Once I get, let me do Command Z to get rid of this. There we go. Once I get this finalized, then I think then it's time for us to be talking one-on-one with each other about how you want to customize it. And I'd be happy to help you with customizing it because you can do almost anything with Notion if it's set up the right way and you've got it flowing. So your flow is basically going to be dye the recipe. Now, when I am dyeing, I have a scrap notebook. They used to be 25 cents. Now they're probably almost $1. But I would buy those composition books. Now's the time. If you haven't gone out and done it yet, it's school season, go out and buy your Elmers for the year and then go out and totally lost my train of thought on what I was doing. What was I telling you to go buy?
Composition book.
Composition books. Okay, thank you. That's embarrassing. So go out and get your Elmer's glue and buy a composition book. The composition book sits on my counter. It gets dye on it. It gets wet on the corners. It takes a beating, but it's my scrap paper that I use while I'm dyeing. Okay, because often the wool doesn't come out of my dryer until the next day. Once I've got that and I can start cutting pieces off of it, I'll make my manual pages for my book. I will then photograph it and then come here to Notion and put the color in. So when I look at the gallery, I've got all these pretty colors going on, right? So that makes it a little bit easier then to choose your formula if this is gone. Okay, so in this method I think is detailed in the virtual dot class and what that looks like and how I do that. It's nothing fancy, it's just handwritten. Just stay consistent with it is all that you really need to do. So now that I've said that much, what else needs to be in, and I need a better name than dye formula database. I don't know what to call this. So if someone's got some ideas, I'm open to suggestions. Have I covered everything that you might want to collect and sort your formulas database.
Cindy, Denise Hofer here.
Yeah.
I'd like to be able to make a note if I dyed it over wool fabric or yarn.
Oh, that's a good
Or
thing.
or hood.
Okay.
And to add to that, the measurement would be, instead of like by yards, it would be either grams or ounces.
Yeah.
True. Okay.
And actually, you probably could do the same with your fabric,
Mm-hmm.
but
It just
Okay, and what,
depends on the mindset that you're in.
what if it was an over dye and you're over dyeing it again? Or if it was door off the bolt, or we need some kind of a category for that?
Okay, I don't personally track that, but I could see how you would want that. That makes
Yeah.
sense. I grew up, I don't know how old I was when I got my first paint set, but I know I was young. I grew up mixing colors. And I remember sitting in school in art class, I think in junior high. And the teacher's like, okay, if we take a little bit of yellow and a little bit of red and we mix it, what color do we get? And I'm thinking, this feels like kindergarten. Why am I doing it? Because I had experience in it. A lot of the other kids had never had experience in it. So part of it is my bias that I can look at a piece of wool, I can look at a dye formula, and I can kind of imagine what that's going to look like dyed up. But I realize not everybody has that. I've dyed thousands of yards of wool over the last 25 years. So but that's a good idea. We can always put a picture of what we over dyed. But I think even white or natural somehow in there too is a good idea. Okay. See, I knew you guys would have ideas.
Or a beginning, taking a picture of the wool before you dye it and the wool after you dye it. That would cover if you were over dyeing a piece.
Right. And it's a little bit tricky. I'll have to ask my daughter what app she uses because she does this all the time. You can do like half of the picture. You can make a new photograph, a third photograph, by taking the part of the beginning and part of the ending and putting it all together, so that when you look at it on the gallery, you would see both. Would that be helpful?
Well, is
Might be.
Notion going to limit us to the number of pictures like they do in the photo gallery?
Yeah, it's
our rug gallery.
It's whatever account you are on, because there's various levels of Notion, of course. And one place they do limit you on the free version is in images.
Right.
And I looked into it one time, and then I got a notice that said, we've changed the way we do this. I'm like, oh, great. So now I got to look into it again. So I don't remember what the limits are. I don't know if it's cumulative or if it's per photo, what the particular deal is. The price you pay for a free account is that you have to massage and manipulate your images before you put them in. So that's the downside. I can tell you that the earlier you join, the better off you are, because you keep that pricing all the way through. So if you join at $8, $9 a month, when it goes up to 10, when it goes up to 15, when it goes up to 20, who knows, you're grandfathered in at the old price until you change something.
I had this issue that other day when I moved my wool from the basement to the upstairs, and I was resorting everything, on the into the cubes. And I come across, the most gorgeous pieces of fabric that are, yellow at one end and blue at the other end, and they're all rainbow colors in between, or maybe they look like sherbet, or maybe they look like a midnight sky, but they're all like, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so I couldn't put them in orange. I couldn't put them in yellow. I couldn't put them. So I had to make like a category for changing, like fabric that changes color.
multi. Yeah.
Multicolor.
I have that issue with as is wool, because it's like, okay, this has red in it, has green in it, has gold in it, has purple in it. Where do I put it? I just pick one. And then I know when I'm looking for it, because that's why we put things in certain places, right? So we can find them again later. So if I decide, okay, this is mainly, I think of this as a red wool, I'm going to put it in red, even though it has a bunch of other stuff. And you can kind of look up there and you can see some stuff that's not 100% red. That's my thinking on it. At least with the dye formulas, it is one or the other. Now, what we could do is I'm struggling with words, but I'm going to call it a combo. So if we have a combo and you dyed it a bunch of different colors, maybe instead of red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, neutral, combo.
Or complex.
Complex. Oh, I like that better. And then that'll take care of that. And what you might be using would be a formula that's red, a formula that's blue, and a formula that, and they're already somehow in your database. Okay.
I don't know. It's just a thought, because I've just
No,
went
that's
through
a good
that
idea. Because it's like, how did I do that? And you're going back and, yeah, what did I do to make that? You don't always know.
Because if I fold them, like if I fold the fabric in a certain way, it's red. But if I fold the fabric in another way, it's green, or it's, you know what I mean? It's like,
right.
It's up on the shelf, you can't see it. So that's why it got its own cubby.
There you go. Yeah. And that's what happens when you're sorting wool. If you've got something that kind of fits a category and that category is kind of overflowing, you do what Sue did. You make up a new category. I still can get greens all on one row. But if I couldn't, I might split it between yellow greens, which are my favorite, and then green greens and blue greens on the row above, and then fill it in that way. But once you get it all together and you start sorting, you'll begin to see what you need and what you don't need.
I like the idea of this, to be able to sort it, because like I've got this really cool leather bound big book, that's really neat. And I write my dye formulas in it, and I take a piece of tape and I tape some yarn in it. But then, I have to flip through the whole thing to find
Right.
to find the one I'm looking for.
Which
isn't a bad thing.
No, it's yeah, because it's like shopping, and then you go, ooh, I forgot about that one. Okay, let's do this one. Yeah, okay.
But I like to be able to sort, the idea of sorting it.
What might be useful, like if I were to almost like number these books, right? Right now I just have them sorted out. But I could say this is book C, right? I could have a field in the database for book C. Do I need page numbers? I don't know.
It'll change.
Yeah, it's going to change. It's going to be, I don't want this to turn into a documenting job for you all. It needs to be something that's going to add value to our life, make things easier. What I'm looking at first and foremost is the insurance of knowing that it is backed up someplace off premises, because Notion is a cloud app. So it is stored on the Notion servers so that we always have it and you have a backup, which is nice. Okay. Any other suggestions, ideas, no matter how crazy, this is a time. it's getting developed.
I know that when you dye a lot, you've got a feel for it, but do you think you should put in how much acid you used or anything like that on your formulas, or is there a notes part where you can say,
yeah.
oh, okay, this is a yellow, it needs to be hotter, or it's, something.
Yeah.
I just had problems. Just before we started, I spun up 2 beautiful skeins of yarn that I bought the fiber for, and a gorgeous, like a deep bright blue and a turquoise together, and the thing bled and bled and bled and bled.
Oh no, that's
And
so
I
good.
finally, with the 3rd rinse, said, you know what? It's going back on the stove and getting another dose of acid and heat.
Okay, so what I like about Notion, I mean, because otherwise you might be looking at this going, I can do that with a spreadsheet. You can even do filtering, you can do sorting, you can do all that stuff with a spreadsheet. But what I also like is you can do anything. You can take a photograph of maybe the dye page. Maybe you don't want to enter it at all. Maybe you don't want to do that. You can take a photograph of the recipe in the dye book and pop it in there. You can make notes. You can do things like this one's 8/5/25. Tried this color, today this is what happened. Then on 10/15/25, this time I did this, and this. So you can almost journal or diagram out what you are doing simply by going into the formula and then go to that page where you can put anything you want.
Good. Cindy, would you remind me how you came up with your numbering systems? I just glanced at the page there. They start with your color name starts with a numbering system.
Yeah, there's in the dye book, they're all numbered because they all belong to groups. So like the first section of red is 1, and if you look at, I don't have that up anymore. Where's on the front of the book, here we go. So this is the rug that was hooked with all the dyed formulas. So each one of these, there's 16 of them going around, or there's 8. There's 8 because there's the inside and then there's the outside. I don't remember exactly how it lays out. I'd have to look at the legend in the book. But though that's how I group them together. The way the book was developed, the dye book, is that you can start with a recipe, and by just twisting the proportions a little bit one way or another, and it's surprising how little sometimes you need to twist it. By making a different proportion, you end up with a different color. So that's kind of why they were in groups. I used to have all 4 formulas on one page. The feedback I got was that was confusing, so we split them out and moved them around and tried to make it simpler on the reprint. But it loses that why it's got numbers feeling, and it's kind of just out there.
No, I totally get that color change because we took Dave's drab and made a beautiful, wasn't it a beautiful spot dye or something with it? What did we do? We added the colors one after the other.
Yeah, we didn't take all the colors and put them into one measuring cup. We put each color in a measuring cup, and then we poured it as a spot dye, and then it bled and did the amazing thing.
It was beautiful.
It was quite striking, and quite frankly, it was lucky because I didn't have time to test that before class. So that was a totally untested, hope this works, and it did. But I had dyed that formula. It's probably one of my bigger sellers. It's just a beautiful green, and it's really not that drab. But as the formulas were developed, the name did not get changed. And my husband wanted a color named after him, so that's where Dave's Drab came from. He likes the drab army, hence, yeah, he thinks this is sexy, right? Camouflage. So it's just what, okay, I'm going to put you guys on hold for just a second. Hold on. Hi, sweetie.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing good. Is everything okay? Can I call you back?
Yeah, that's
Okay,
fine.
I'll call you in a break.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, bye-bye.
Okay, sorry about that. It was my daughter, and she knows, but I don't think they're all awake yet. I mean, they spent days in the hospital, so they are tired. Okay, what other suggestions, comments? What would you like to see in that if you had, this is something I always track when I dye. Did we cover everything on that? This isn't office hours, so I'm going to open it up to anything rug cooking related. So any question that you have, we can talk about.
Cindy, are you going to use like the universal names like a dip dye, a spot dye, and the way they're described by a lot of different dyers?
Well, I don't know.
I can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
Maybe it's...
Can the rest of you hear me? No? I wonder if my internet's dying. Whew. Okay, let me go back to here. Virtual mic.
See, we can hear you.
Oh, you can hear me? Okay.
You can hear it fine.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
The screen, and I just got to notice that my connection is unstable. So, yeah. That's one of the beauties of living out here, I guess.
I know. Yes, yeah.
As far as I've used the names of things that basically I grew up with, meaning since 2000, right? What people call them, I don't know if they're the true acceptable. I don't know who has the power to say this is what you call that. So yeah, in the dye book, I not only say the name, here's how you dip dye, I tell you how to do that. So if you know it by a different name, you can literally take the book, cross out the heading dip dye, and call it whatever, you grew up with, learning. I know there's a movement in rug cooking to not call textures. But they've been called textures for as long as I remember. And this is my 26th year of hooking. It'll be it already is? No, it'll be my 26th. No, it's my 27th year of hooking. Holy cow, I'm getting old.
But we've always known them as textures.
Right.
That's been planted in our brain, like you say, for a lot of years. So
exactly.
how are we, we're not going to change it.
And that's a big thing in our culture right now. Oh, that name's wrong, let's change the name. Well, feel free, change the name. But I might have to ask you what you're talking about. I might not know if you change the name. I'm just going with tradition and what we've called it in the past. And until I hear an argument on why that doesn't make sense, then I will move over.
So what do they want to call it?
Oh, they want to call it patterned wool. But that gets
that doesn't make
confusion.
any
That
sense.
gets confused with patterns. Okay.
That doesn't make any sense.
It's yeah.
Not to me, it doesn't. No.
But he who names it wins. So I think that's part of what's going on. So, and I just don't want to play that game. What else can I tell you?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah. Hi, Bridget.
So I took the virtual die course, and I have not made any progress since I did it however many years ago.
Okay.
Anywho, I'm just now getting into dyeing some things myself, so I need to get back on this task. However, a lot of the problems that I'm running into when I'm thinking about dyeing is I look at a color on a screen or in a book or whatever, and I'm just thinking about your course, and I just pulled up the virtual dye handout, not the handout, the dye book itself.
Mm-hmm.
And all of your formulas and the names of your colors and such. But for somebody who's, I'm going to say, ignorant in the sense of dyeing and understanding, thinking about, blending colors and how it applies to the textures, I see a dye recipe that you've called whatever it is. How do I know what that truly is going to be? Are you going to have photos of the colors of the wool in updated version of your dye class?
I am. I will. Well, you do have it in that it's small, but it's on the front of the book. And in the book somewhere, there is a key that says this color goes here, this color goes there. I don't see it offhand. But that's in there. But I'm also, if I've got time and fingers crossed, all the colors are right, I'll have the actual swatches for solder. But I'm leaving it to the last thing I do before I go because other things are more important, but I'm hoping I can get that taken care of. So there will be swatches available, but when you get the dye formulas database, that'll have photographs of the wool color, so everybody's monitor is a little bit different. So it's still going to be just sort of a general guideline on what the color looks like. Without the actual wool in hand, you won't know for sure. And even with that, you're not going to know for sure because everybody's water is slightly different. If you start with white versus natural, if there's so many things that affect the color. So you almost have to, do your own dyeing and do this. But all this was dyed in the Village of Pemberville. I now live in Freedom Township. Guess what? I don't have Village of Pemberville water. I have well water. So I'm going to end up with something different than this, and it's going to depend on a lot of things. Even when I lived in Pemberville, in talking to the people in charge of the village, we had 3 wells that they pulled water from. So on any given day, I didn't know which well they were pulling from. One well had more sulfur in it. You couldn't smell it at the tap, but downstairs in the basement, in the laundry, when you had the washing machine going, if it was sulfur day, you could smell it, because of the agitation of the washer and all that kind of fun stuff. So the tiniest bit, if we don't get enough water, it's a dry summer. It's not, but if it were, I'm going to have more concentrated minerals in the water than I would if it's a nice luscious summer like it is now. I mean, it's August. I still have to look at the calendar to believe that. My grass is not brown, right? From time immemorial, when I remember as a kid, it's not all the way into August yet, but usually by now, the grass starts turning a little brown because the water hasn't, happened. But we've had volumes of water in the week I was gone in Dallas. So everything is green. The weeds are taller than I am in certain places. I mean, it's ugly. Everything is growing like crazy.
Yeah, I think
Different brands of dye also make a difference.
Right. Oh, definitely. Definitely the different. Yeah. If you use these formulas with Cushing dyes, you know, it's gonna be different. These are meant for pro chem, but this is a dye book that teaches you how to dye, that happens to have some recipes in the back. Most dye books are, here's the dye book, and they've got 3 pages of how to dye. They don't teach you anything. You know, they assume that you somehow magically know what you're doing. You know, and where to start? I recommend starting on the mystery color. There's a mystery color in the dye book. Dye that color first as your very first dye job. Do it in the simplest method, which is the pot method. And put in natural or white wool. You know, I didn't used to say that, but now white wool's cheaper than natural. So you might be using one or the other. And that'll teach you more in one afternoon than all the amounts of reading and online lessons will, because of how the colors change. I will challenge you not to panic when you see that color and you go, oh, I'm never using that color. Although some people might go, oh, that's pretty, I love this color. I'm sorry, it's going to turn into something else. And this one just happens to be the most dramatic formula that I've used, and I've used it for years when working with people who are new to dyeing. And I would always pass it out to my studio students and say, okay, you want to get into dyeing, here's what you do, and here's the formula you start with. And it was always that mystery color.
Found that mystery color on my saved version of your dyeing by the numbers. But I don't, you showed a visual or you showed your dye book, a spiral bound. I didn't get the actual I didn't get the book mailed to me. I get a download version, I guess. Maybe that was the option I chose.
Yeah.
Or maybe
if you want to get it free with the dye class, that's how you get it. You get it as a PDF download.
Okay. The PDF I don't think had that cover page with the colors on it. Did I overlook it somewhere? Or maybe
I don't know, but I will add that. They might be indifferent because most printers require, I don't think anything else in the book is color. No, it's not. Yeah, this is a black and white book. So in order to get the price break, otherwise I would get charged for color pages for all of these.
Right.
So it's just in a different file.
So if we could get that, that'd be great. And then last question real quick. For those of us not going to be able to make it to solder this year, if the stars align and you're able to get your swatches pulled together for sale, is that something we can purchase without going to? Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And I will offer it to people who are in the virtual dye class first before it goes online publicly.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yep. Okay. What else?
I'm assuming you can print what you put in, because I'm thinking for me, I've got the scrap of paper that I've written down as I'm doing the dye process. Then I'm gonna put it in the database and it'll be typed up nice and pretty. Then I may want to print it off and put it in my book with a swatch.
Oh, I see what you mean. You can, one of the downsides with Notion, and I think it's just because of the way it was built, and they wanted to, and if someone knows, I haven't been in Notion every day for at least the last month, let me know if it's changed, because things change quickly. Printing in Notion can be difficult, but you can always do a print screen and then print that. You know, there's a lot of workaround kind of things. It's not meant to be the kind of thing where you, let me make sure they didn't put in a print option. Yeah, they don't even have a print option in here. But I can tell you that you can call it up on your phone and you can have it on your phone. I'm thinking of printing it out so you can use it while you're working. You just want it for historical reference.
Right.
Well, that's how you'd make your die book. That's a great idea, though, to be able to print it and just
To be
attach a
able to
slot.
print it. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think that will work because I just do, let me spotlight this so you can have a chance of seeing it big. So I just do like red, orange, yellow, blue, black. It's very minimal. There's not much to it, and then I staple it. If it's not easy, simple, and fast, I'm probably not going to do it. So, at this point,
But we could do a screen print.
you can always do a screen print. I've got access to a pretty advanced forum for Notion. I'll ask in there about printing if anyone's come up with workarounds. Sometimes they can set it up where you can do like an add-on app and it'll work. But I don't know if any of that's been developed. There's a lot of automation. There's a lot of other stuff going on. So it might be part of that world that I just haven't explored yet.
Is it the same thing that you can't like save it as a PDF or?
Yeah, there's no real export. You could, if I remember right, I think there might be. Yeah, there's no export. Oh yeah, there is an export. Let me see what you can export it at. You can export it as a PDF. So you could always do that. To me, that
And
just
then-
seems like a lot of work.
Well, you have all your notes though. That's the thing. Is like if you had the weight of the die, the weight of the goods that you use, and you had your notes. Well, I did this, this, and this. Then it'd be nice to have that with a sample.
Okay, I'll make sure
That's
that.
what my die book. That's what my hardcover die book is like. I mean, I open the page and it says, on this day I did this. First I dyed it light yellow. Then I put blah 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 over it.
Okay. Yeah, I will definitely do it. It looks like if you have a business account, it's a little bit easier. I'm assuming you all don't have business accounts. So I will do just the simple one at a time kind of a method, and I'll include that with the lessons with once this gets wrapped up and moved together. So yeah, I think that'll work. Good questions. What else?
So, am I correct in saying that I can put all the different reds in a category, even if the category is from your book or somebody else's book?
Absolutely. Yeah, you can,
Okay.
once you've developed your own, if from other books, what I've done, yeah, let me show this real quick. So this is what it looks like when you export it to PDF and print it.
Oh, cool.
So it looks, it looks like it's doing a really good job. I mean, it's got all these little categories on here. I need to change the word source. That's not how you spell it. And then it's got the recipe, and if you put other text down here, so it looks like it's doing just fine. It does a good job of that. So then, but yes, you can use. It doesn't matter where the recipe came from.
Okay.
You get, you're in a workshop, and I don't have any of those journals down here, but you take your rug cooking journal, because I recommend you have one, And you take that with you to class, and your teacher goes, oh yeah, and by the way, the formula for this is 1 part this, 1 part that. You write that down really quick in that journal. Then you can come back later and put it, even for ones that you haven't dyed yet, right? So my method, at least for this, is these are only the ones I've dyed, right? And there's a lot more books up there, but if I haven't actually dyed it, it's still an unknown entity for me.
So can I have it pull up for me? And I know there's going to be a difference in monitor, but hopefully after a while I'll understand the difference.
Right.
Can I say, pull up all of the red pinks? And they would be mixed in with all other reds. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yes, I do. And there is a way to do that if you want to get really fussy with the, oops.
And it would show me different red, pink colors.
Yeah, but it's not going to be able to do that smart. I mean, maybe someday it will. But it doesn't do it yet. Artificial intelligence is growing day by day, which is frightening. Okay, let me figure out how I'm doing this. Let's do this. Okay. So, and then let me spotlight this for everyone. What you would have to do is here under red, you would have to put, okay, now I want pink red, and I want purple red, and I want, whatever. I did it with the simplest possible way of doing it. Now, what you could do is leave this alone and then set up another form or another field, and that field would then drill down even further.
Yeah.
Okay, so all your reds will be in red, but then you might have all the variations of red.
Yeah.
Okay, or in neutral, you would have, this is gray, this is beige, this is, khaki, this is, I don't know, whatever you want to call it.
And can I pull up? I'm thinking first I would want just to see the colors, the spectrum of the colors of the red pink without any words per se. And then I can say, oh yeah, I want those in the middle, and then drill down to what it is.
No, I keep doing the wrong button. Let me get down to this. So yeah, you could, like here, I've got a gallery set up. It's not filtered right now.
Yeah.
But then there's all the colors. And I can make this, if this is, all of this stuff is, oh, they moved it.
I could filter it.
Right.
And filter it on that new field of pink that I put in.
Right.
And it would come up.
It's
awesome.
Infinitely customizable. You can make it, what I'm going to give you is sort of like the basic template. And then what you want to do with it is going to be completely up to you.
Awesome.
Yeah. And it's fun from the standpoint that now I need to search. I know the name of the formula, or I want to see if that, let's say I know the name of a formula, but I don't know it's in my 2,345 formulas. You can search and you go, brrr, and there it is, and you look for it. So it makes finding things a little bit easier. You just don't have that tactile wool element that you would have otherwise. But there's downsides with that. In here, I keep them, they're on the top shelf right above the wool rack behind me. And I do have them facing out because then I can see what the colors are. But these are subject to fading. So, I mean, there's downsides of, real storage versus digital.
Mm-hmm.
My goal with this is to create a backup so that if anything ever happens, I mean, what's the worst that can happen? You end up dumping water on it. And the ink you used, because maybe you're not real careful with your pens, your inks are water soluble and it washes it off the page. Then what do? Or you do, a friend of mine did, she goes, I love these pens. And I'm like, okay, do you know what kind of pens those are? Yeah, they're really nice. I'm like, no, those are friction pens. She goes, I don't know what that means. That means if you take something and you rub on it really hard and create heat, the ink disappears. Or you leave it in your car in the summertime, your journal's empty. So, surprise! So, be careful with, what pens you use. Ideally, I love these. This is not my everyday carry anymore, but this is Pentel Energel Permanent. This is archival. This is what I write checks with. This is not going to come off in the washer. So I can tell you from firsthand experience that a regular ballpoint pen that you pick up from the doctor's office or the cheapy ones you buy this time of the year for the school kids, if you write a check and I put it in my jean pocket and totally forget about it, it'll go through the washer, it'll go through the dryer, and it'll come out perfect, except it's blank. So, yeah. Permanent pens with these pens, that will not happen. That will not happen. And you don't know who's washing your checks. So, that's the thing. So, yeah. It's a rabbit hole. I mean, the things we have to do to stay safe nowadays it's frustrating. We have more access to everything, but then everybody else has more access to us too. So I just discovered that they have little cards that you can buy. I bought a set of 4, and they're RFID blocking cards, and literally all you do is put it in your wallet. So I gave one to my husband, and I said, put it in your wallet. He goes, what's it for? I says, it'll block the bad guys. It's got magic power. So instead of, because before that it was always these sleeves that you had to put your stuff into. Yeah. This girl's not going to be good at that. So
My wallet is made out of that material. I got it from AAA.
That's the other thing. But then I was looking for a new phone solution. So I got a wallet that'll magnetically stick to the back of my phone. Okay, which will be good for solder. And I didn't want a real big one. I wanted it to hold just my ID for the airport, and because I think I'm going to be a frequent flyer. And I wanted it skinny. I didn't want it real thick. So one of my criteria was it had to be RFID protective. And so many aren't. Where this one, you just put this card in and it'll protect 2 inches on either side of the card. So it creates like a force field. And that's something that really happens. It happened to me in New York years ago. It was my business credit card, and it was used in a vending machine in New York City for a Pepsi. So didn't ring any bells until they bought an airline ticket to Nigeria. Then all the bells went off, and I got the phone call, do you have travel plans for Nigeria? Heck no. So they traced it back. They said, what about this? I don't remember how much it was for, Pepsi in New York City. And I I was in New York, but I did not use the vending machines. So it happens, and all they have to do is walk past you. They can pass you in the grocery store. They can pass you in the parking lot. They don't even have to touch you. That scanner will pick it up. That's how we're paying for that convenience of not having to swipe our card, just get it close to the reader. Well, bad people carry those machines around and they can get your credit card. So, what else? Donna, I don't know if you're talking to us or somebody else, but you are muted, so I'm not ignoring you. We just haven't heard what you're saying.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I was trying to plug in my computer outside, and I said, "Jesus, it's not working." But then I realized I didn't have my computer plugged in. Got to check both ends, right?
Yeah, it's funny that way.
Yeah.
Yep. What else? What other questions? Could be about this topic of, you're curating your die recipe library, your bank, your die recipe bank. No, it's not right. I'll come up with a name. There's got to be a name for this.
It could be a dictionary or just trying to think.
I know. It's like I'm not good with coming up with good names. So, for now, it'll be the die recipe database until I come up with something else.
Die data, DD.
There you go. Okay. So there was something right at 4:00, and I said I have to go live. What was that I put on the table?
We were talking about your daughter, your granddaughter.
My granddaughter. Okay. So,
Archive.
so
Oh, sorry, Cindy.
no problem. So and part of this is, do I need to rethink how I deliver lessons for the rug hooking journey? Because my issues then become your issues because you don't get a lesson, right? So I'm trying to figure out what's the right way for that. If you have any suggestions, I'm open. Send me a text on what you're thinking. I don't have anything finalized. So far, nothing's changing. The one thing that... Yeah?
Sorry, Cindy. Are you going to cancel the lesson and every first Saturday week?
I think I'm going to have to for that. Normally what I can do is I can step out and do it either in my hotel room or whatever. But Tuesday night is when they do the special shopping for retreat members. And
That's right.
I'm part of the vendors this time. So
that's why I was thinking, you should just
let me put that.
cancel that week.
Yeah, I'm gonna put that on my calendar that it's canceled. So I had somebody ask me, how do I know when things are canceled? Because I don't always have the ability to send out an email. My mind is not in the right, if I'm running out of the door, on the phone making my airline reservation and I'm running out the door, I don't have time to send an email, but I can, once I get in the car, adjust my calendar. So always do that. Subscribe to the calendar and then you'll have the best of the information. So, and thank you to Denise. I am still broadcasting to YouTube. So I am going to say goodbye to those of you on YouTube. I'm going to finish up with my members here. If there is anything